Hi everyone, we're back again with our next tutorial, sooner than we actually anticipated, but hey, the way the first video took off gave us a good confidence that more in-depth view into our craft is very much appreciated by a lot of people. Okay, so my name is Nikolai and today I'll be showing you another aspect of our work. With this talk called Air, we will focus on techniques applied when representing glass facades of buildings in our images. As that is a common theme we can face regularly in our work, we decided to share our point of view. The approach explained in this video has been a great asset to our studio and have given us a competitive edge on many occasions when it comes to early stages of design process and opportunities which require flexibility and the ability to test and develop ideas on the go, let's say. All this has been appreciated by our clients and we plan to carry on utilizing and improving these tools and assets. In this case, we have been involved recently in a very diverse mixed-use scheme, and the shot in particular is the shot of the central plaza space, which holds together various buildings with multitude of functions. So it looked like an ideal opportunity to record and show how we tackled the facades, as they did make up a lot of the visible architecture in this case, and they were one of the key elements to define the public space. The challenges here were to create this ensemble of surfaces, each one with its own right of expression and eager, shall we say, to show and explain what they hold behind. At the same time, all of them had to work in tandem for the common well-being of the plaza and our shot, of course. Another detail I wanted to discuss and establish, which is quite important, is the stage of the project. We had been involved for a while in this process, and our clients had their concept stage signed off at that point, and we were moving to design development with this round of images. So still no fixed details and specific solutions for the glazing and the curtain walling, which meant we had a lot of room to maneuver, and the focus was mostly on representing materiality, spaces and general feel and atmosphere of the space. This is important to know, as had we been working with a detailed design or involved at marketing stages of the project, some of the techniques used might not have been appropriate. So bear that in mind when approaching your tasks. Okay, here you can see the bare render, and if you pay attention on the facades, you will notice we have invested some time to add light emitters in all the major spaces behind the facades, and we have got a very gentle layer of glass catching some reflections, enough to indicate and establish the boundary between inside and outside. This overall lighting is important, and we'll see why once we go further. Right, let's jump straight into it. As usual, we're on the hunt for photographic material, and more specifically shop fronts. The more the better in our case. I'm beginning to build a collection of single, double, even triple story shop facades, as I will need a lot of them. So as you can see, some are pretty flat, so to say, meaning you do not see the extent of the space behind, while others are quite see-through, and I will need both of them. The ones that are more of an exhibit, the so-called flat, are more universal, as you can mold them to fit a wider range of angles in your shot, as you do not read easily the perspective deformations in them, and they can be treated more as a texture. The photos which are more see-through I will pay more careful attention to and use in areas which match the camera angle of the photo quite well, to avoid clashes in the perspective deformations. Here you see the client's marked up sketch indicating nicely the types of functions we need to represent behind the facades. It is a very useful piece of information that is a good practice to request beforehand, before you start work on your shots. As the other alternative that we've tried as an approach is to create something in order to get a conversation going with your clients, and obviously you will have to change it all after if you've not got this info up front. And that in most cases is not a very cool way to spend your free time, except from gaining some experience in that area by practicing more. Now I'm starting work on this double height space, and I have picked a nice photo to try and mold onto the area. It is the ground floor of the building, occupied by a retail outlet, and obviously I need to make sure it is masked out correctly. The texture sits well behind the trees and the people. Again, I'm just preparing the correct masks. Making sure that I've picked all the right objects. I need to make this extra effort to blend the photo as close as possible to the local lighting conditions and overall scene lighting, so it sits as naturally as possible. Also keep in mind the idea that you should avoid too much of a contrast at this stage in order to secure this wider range of adjustment possibilities at the end when working on the overall balance of the image. On the left side of the shot I have a similar typology, and I will try and use the same photo reference because let's say I'm a bit lazy here. Same exercise here as well, matching the perspective, and in this case we have a situation where our photo has a good depth in it. By depth I mean the space is revealed well in the photo and you can read the perspective. You can make out volumes of furniture and other architectural elements, so I need to make the best of efforts here to blend the perspective of both spaces accurately. The one in the photo and the one in my render. Okay. In some cases you might have to go through quite a few photos in order to get the right candidate, and in most cases it is worth the effort. At some point it might turn into one of those life experiences where you are lost in part of the city, say London, and you are convinced if you carry on the way you are heading you will hit that Tottenham Court Road tube station. But somehow it doesn't appear as you are progressing through the narrow streets, and it starts to look like a better alternative to go back the way you came from, all the way from Waterloo. But that is quite a way already, so what do you do then? My advice is keep looking for that Tottenham Court Road station, tube station. One way or another you will get there, and it will be worth it, as you are going north, for example, not south. Plus, who knows what you might bump into while on your way, so don't give up. Now in that upper floor area, I have to, or I want to, I forgot which one of those. Let's say I'm representing some office functions, and this is a bit of an extreme case as the angle is very oblique, and again it is crucial to have the correct perspective in the photo reference that I will be using. And it is even more so in this case because I want to achieve some more depth behind the facade. This usually is a good thing for the clients, and in most cases for our views as well. Sometimes inevitably you won't get there, you won't be able to find this photo that is just right and it fits the way you intended it to fit in your view. It could be purely just running out of time, and in cases like that everyone knows that there's an easy way out, and this easy way is called reflections or lens flares. Sky reflections and lens flares are always a good way out. In this case though, I've been lucky and I got something that works well. And the thing here is that I have two levels to take care of. I need to make them work together, as I have not picked up a photo that has more than one level on it. I will need to do double the work to cover both floors. Luckily I have even a person that kind of fits well within the space, so all is well. Okay, I'm moving down a level with another shop front ready to shine. Something else I wanted to mention, now it's a good time to elaborate on it. A lot of the reference photos of building facades and shop fronts found on Gobotree might puzzle some of you guys at first glance, as they seem to be way too dark and underexposed if they have to be judged as a photo on their own. But I have this suspicion there is a reason different from crappy photographers behind the camera. And as it turns out, these underexposed photos are the perfect raw material to blend in Photoshop over our renders. And if placed on a screen or some of the other overlay types, they seem to blend very well indeed, as you lose all the dark areas and you are left only with nice shiny bits of lights and lit up surfaces that add all this vibrancy and life to what is underneath. This way you keep your geometry still pronounced and legible without having to mask out a lot or most of the photographic references, trying to preserve clarity in your shots. Like in this case here, for example, where I'm having to reconstruct the interiors of this corner shop by carefully masking out parts of the photo I'm using, so I can read and suggest, let's say, what's on the other side of the building. It is a bit of a complex alteration, and you need to have the correct photo to be able to do that, but with some careful planning and thinking, it's quite doable and fun as well. what I want to achieve is suggest this let's say a certain transparency through the corner, and outline some interior elements derived from the photographic material, and at the end we will get a convincing looking corner of the building. Of course, we can always approach this situation here using 3D models to represent the interiors, and they could look more accurate and representative, but they will be introducing a couple of issues as well. First, they will definitely lack a bit of the life and soul contained in this photo, for example, and second, they will introduce a certain expectations throughout the shot for the level of detail of all geometry. An expectation that might be hard to reach or match at this stage of the project, so hence we have taken this approach here. Here you can clearly see in my search all these dark shots which I mentioned before. They can be a very powerful tool when working up your views in Photoshop, whether you're adding content over your facades, suggesting various functionality, or just adding light effects, emphasizing public activities in your scenes, like various events, or just street life, or street and traffic lighting, and so on. In all cases, they could be a really valuable asset when working up your views. Just experiment a bit and test various options, and you'll get somewhere with them. You'll start to get the hang of it and understand how your image reacts to overlaying these, losing the dark and just leaving whatever is bright, and little by little you get used to it. Now I have prepared a good number of additional photo references, and I'm ready to tackle the next double height space. Most of us, I hope, will agree that this looks like a lot more fun way to spend your day's work, let's say, as opposed to messing up with 3D models, for example. Sourcing, preparing and arranging them in our 3D scenes. Then once happy that all textures are there, not in crashes, and all objects have our favorite V-Ray shaders, we can hit this render button and wait for our super high-res render to come out so we can start photoshopping them. In the meantime, clients are eagerly waiting to see that render and validate your 3D model selecting skills, shall we say. And let's face it, we all had this gut feeling when hitting the send button on the email containing the hot whips. Exciting times indeed. So to go back to our current approach, I must testify it does help being able to put your image faster convincingly, and it does help to be not super literal with representing someone else's design, like our facades here. There is a lot more room for interpretation by the viewer, which does something very, very important when it comes to the client seeing what they want to see, let's say, as opposed to seeing what someone else has made instead of them, which is definitely not what they want to see, if that makes sense. But to summarize it, ultimately, what this means for us is it is a lot of changes at the end of the day, especially if clients are not seeing what they think they should be seeing. So before we get excited though, I want to point out that the technique employed here is more applicable to early stages of the design process and might not work in cases where we are dealing with detailed schemes and well-described layouts and furniture specifications even. Then we do have to put our efforts in representing these accordingly. But here we can afford a bit of fun time. Okay, now I will focus my attention on the upper level, and as these levels are being seen from below, we will have to worry about the ceiling as well. Whereas the ground levels had a pretty much orthogonal appearance and treatment respectively, here we will be thinking about one more plane. My advice will be to reconstruct your perspective lines, let's say, and either visualize them in your head based on experience, or you can just draw them on a separate layer and carefully lay down the ceiling texture or textures while following these perspective lines. That way you will make sure that things are working correctly. Then we're on to the frontage here, which we know already how to do. Same technique here like the lower facades, nothing new. And at the end, voila, you have a convincing space. And then I'm back on the hunt for more references. Obviously we picked this shot intentionally for this video, as the subject is facade treatments and there are loads of them, as everyone can appreciate here. So I need lots of photos. In most cases, luckily, we don't have to deal with that many facades usually, but this one is great for our video, so let's make the most out of it. Here you can see I'm about to test a facade that I found earlier, and I will need to do certain alterations to it before making use of it. As I do not want to see all the slabs or columns from the photo expressed in my facade, I need to clean them out before inserting in my work. First though, I'm gonna do a quick test recce, let's say, to see if it fits and confirm this is a potential solution. Then I'm gonna have to go back, jump back onto the shot, onto the original photo, and carry on more precise dissecting to avoid these unwanted effects or defects, let's say, more accurately. As you can see, I'm cleaning the dark frames so they do not appear once I apply the photo over my image. This does not have to be super precise, but good enough to give the right impression. Obviously, the more time you spend here, the better your facade, the more accurate it's gonna look, but you have to find the right balance for yourselves and time it wisely in terms of deadlines. Adding some ceiling lights as well won't hurt the shot. And then I'm ready to move all that back and fit in my scene, and it should all work together nicely. Now I'm starting to think about the top floor, which according to the client's sketch and markups is going to hold a fast food restaurant diner kind of typology. So I need to have the right material for it. Here I need to mind carefully the extreme perspective and adjust my texture accordingly, as pointed out before. As you see, I picked something more expressive that naturally will draw more attention with that bright, warm color, but I think it will be a good stopping for the build-up from below. The text makes sure that there are no doubts about what will be going on there as well. And again, pay attention. We have to be careful with contrasts and color at this stage. So I'm darkening a bit the top of the photo in order to fit it better. And once I'm happy, I can move to the adjacent building, which has a similar typology on the top floor, food and beverage area. And I'm about to do similar exercise as on the left. Now moving down the floors, I'm working methodically through the rest of the spaces, applying the exact same techniques shown already, till I'm happy with the overall feel of all the spaces and the whole facade. Patience is the name of the game here, as you do have to find that photo that works just fine, and you do need to check very carefully that the perspective will match the one you are representing. Then it's so easy, let's say, color balancing and fitting it within your scene's general light concept should be within everyone's capability at this stage. Every little piece you add should fit that big puzzle seamlessly at the end, and as a small piece can ruin the whole show, take good care of the little details. Also, trust your brain and eyes. They could be your best friend in such an exercise where a bit of imagination and sensitivity, shall we say, is needed while surfing through all those photos. But keep in mind they could turn your worst enemy at the same time, as a random pair of spectators' eyes will pick up with ease any dodgy piece of work. So really you cannot afford to not make it all nice and beautiful. If there's a drawback using this method for treating your glass facades, apart from picking the right stage of the project, it is that care needs to be exerted constantly. But the benefits far outweighs the drawbacks, I think, at least for us at Vyonyx, as we do use these techniques constantly and they do serve us quite well. If I could give only one piece of advice on the whole topic here, it would be not to be afraid. Just have a play and a laugh. Test and try various options till you get it right. With time you will build that confidence and solutions will start appearing a lot easier, and all that means is more fun and less time spent in front of the computer while getting exciting results. I hope you find this video helpful, as the techniques shown have been a great way for us to add substance to our scenes and work, enabling us to engage quick with our clients while keeping the flexibility to react, respond, develop and test ideas. Many thanks for the fantastic reception of our previous episode, and subscriptions to the channel was way above what we expected, so thank you. Please give us your thumbs up or any feedback and questions you may have, and stay tuned for more. Bye bye.